everyone. I hope you're all alright and we're glad to see everyone here. We've had a Mint Youth weekend, haven't we? So service is going to be a bit different, going to be a bit more upbeat for the first bit, but you're welcome to come and join us at front like we did on Friday, guys. Do a bit of jumping, a bit of dancing. Let's do it.
That's for everyone.
Wake up day and hope we rise. We speak your name, we lift our eyes, and tune our hearts into your beat. Where we walk, there you'll be. The fire in our eyes, our lives alive. Your love untamed is blazing now. Your streets will glow forever bright. Your glory's breaking through the night. You will never fade away. Your love is here to stay by my side in my life, shining through me every day. You will never fade away. Your love is here to stay by my side in my life, shining through me every day. Wake within me, wake within me. You're in my heart forever. Wake within me, wake within me. You're in my heart forever. Fire in our eyes, our lives alive. Your love untamed is blazing out. The streets will glow forever bright. Your glory's breaking through the night. You will never fade away. Your love is here to stay by my side in my life, shining through me every day. You will never fade away. Your love is here to stay by my side in my life, shining through me every day. Wake within me, wake within me. You're in my heart forever. Wake within me, wake within me. You're in my heart forever. Are we ready? Forever, forever, forever in your love. 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 You will never fade away. Your love is here to stay by my side in my life, shining through me every day. You will never fade away. Your love is here to stay by my side in my life, shining through me every day. Wake within me, wake within me. You're in my heart forever. Wake within me, wake within me. You're in my heart forever. Woo, 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 woo.
Heavenly Father, we just thank you tonight that you are faithful, that you are alive today. You are alive in us, Lord, that you're faithful, that we can put our trust in you, that you'll always be there, Lord, by our side. And we just want to give you praise and glory tonight like you deserve. Amen. So for those of you that have been here previous weeks, you'll know that it's Mental Health Month. So guys, have you done anything about it at school? Have they done anything at school to teach you, to make you aware that it's Mental Health Month? So mental health, especially in young people, so that everybody's got a mental health, like we've got physical health, but it's just as important, our mental health, as it is our physical health. So things can go wrong with our mental health. We've all been in that situation where at some point we've been misunderstood because we've been feeling not as selves, we've been feeling anxious or worried. And some of that can affect our mental health, and it can affect the way that we are with other people and the way that other people are with us. And this month, it is Mental Health Awareness Month. So as a church, we want to talk about mental health because in the past, people have thought that it's people just making things up or that it's not real. And because you can't see it, in a lot of people, we don't know that people are suffering with a bad mental health, that something's not right with the mental health. So we just want to talk about that. So tonight, we have Jordan and Madison and Lydia and myself, and we're just going to talk a little bit about mental health, a bit of our experiences when we were at school and how that's affected us later on in life. Because we just want to make you aware that, you know, God's here. God is real. We've done a song tonight that says, you are alive in us. And you've been taught things at school about God. But do you know that God's real, that God's alive? That God wants to know you and he wants to be in a relationship with you. And he can help us with our mental health. He can be there to pick us up out of that mess that we find ourselves in, or he can just be there to lead us and guide us along the way, to stop us from falling into that, to stop us from becoming really sick with our mental health.
Brill. Come on then, ladies.
I don't know why they expect me to sit on this stool.
Are we all well? Yeah? That didn't sound very enthusiastic, that. Before we do get started, it's great to have Gary and Donna in the house. Great to see you guys back. And I'm sure you'll be surrounded by people chatting and catching up later. So we want to do something a little bit different. It has been sort of an interview session and the past couple, but this one's going to be just more of a general chat. We're going to tell some stories about when we were in school, which weren't long for
All of us.
Hasn't been really that long for me, but yeah, the one on the end's got to do some serious thinking to remember school. But we just want to share how we were at school, what we went through at school. That's going to be fun, because I've got some... What's the best way? It doesn't show me in the best light. Let's just put it that way. But I had fun, so it is what it is. So who wants to start us off then? Share a little bit of something about school, whether it's primary school. I'm going to go high school because that's when I had most fun. Matt? No? Mum, go on. Or do you need resting-us to do it so you can just... Oh, so long ago.
Give chance for memories to come flooding back. So I'll start off in primary school. So like most of us do, we go to nursery we go to nursery and we make lots of friends, and then a lot of us tend to move up to primary infant school and primary school with them. Some of us don't. It's a little bit less like that, but when I were younger, back in the day, nearly everybody went to the same nursery, they went to the same infant school, and you all moved up together. So you built friendships over a lot of years. But when I was going into my last year in the primary school before I went to secondary school, up until then, everything had been absolutely fine. There were a really big group of us that had known each other for a long time. And everybody falls out. We have as moments, don't we, when we fall out with each other and then we're back friends again. And, we all do a little bit of that. But my friends fell out with me. And they never wanted to be my friend again. So it was literally something and nothing. They fell out with me, and for my entire last year, I kind of spent it alone in primary school. So I was the kid that ended up standing next to the dinner lady because I was scared. I was scared at dinner time that nobody's talking to me, I'm all alone, I've not done anything wrong, and that really affected my mental health. In fact, to the point that it went on for so long that I had to go to a completely different secondary school to all my friends who I'd known all that time. So for 10 years, all the friends that I'd made, I had to go to a completely different secondary school where only 4 people from my school went. 2 of them were, shall we say, a little bit disruptive. I knew them, but I didn't really want to hang about with them because I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to be that person. I didn't feel like that's who I was. And the other 2 moved to near where the secondary school was. So I had to get 2 buses to school, stand out in, you guys will probably not know, but the bus station then didn't have a roof on. It were all open in the winter. It was absolutely freezing. And for the first 3 years in high school, we weren't allowed to wear trousers. We had to wear skirts. So that was traumatic in itself. So I went to this secondary school. I did make other friends, but it was difficult because I didn't live near them. A lot of them lived near the secondary school, and so I would have had to catch 2 buses to go out and see them and then get home and things like that. So being bullied in the end of my primary school years, I kind of still bring a little bit of that into life with me now. It's changed me, who I am, and it's changed the way that I am. I've never really been an outgoing person or felt like I'm an extrovert. You might have heard that, guys, that you get people who feel introverts, so they like to be alone a bit more and they're happy to be on their own. And you get extroverts who love talking to people, love going out. You might identify with one of those. And so because I was a bit of an introvert as well, I found it really hard. And because I'd been bullied and I didn't really know why they didn't talk to me, why they never wanted to be my friend again, I struggled with, well, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me and why do I not fit in? And I found that really hard to the point that when I was in secondary school, I became disruptive because I was the one that was like, what you looking at? I kind of, straight away I was like, I'm on the defensive, and boys were my friends more than anything, because the boys don't really care, do we, boys? We just like, yeah, whatever, let's get on with it, while the girls are all busy, arguing and fighting and falling out. And
Nothing's changed.
We've got to agree that this is what it's like. If we look at boys and girls, boys they're not bothered, are they? You just go out. When it's time to go out and have your break, you go and play football or you do whatever you're going to do, go back in school, same end of day, and you're not bothered. Whereas girls, we tend to think about things a little bit more. And so if somebody says something or they make us feel upset, we take that with us. And it's a bit harder just to let that go. And so I kind of struggled through secondary school to the point that I ended up in with the bad crowd, as you might have heard people say, and I skipped school quite a bit. And a lot of that was just, I had teachers who, you can probably relate at school as well, I had teachers who were absolutely brilliant, and they really understood me, and they taught me things and in a way that I was like, yeah, I understand this, I can get this. And if you didn't really get it, that take that time to explain it to you and do it in a way that you could understand it. But I also had those teachers that were like, they did it their way, they were strict in their way, and if you didn't get it, you were kind of just left behind. And they didn't understand why you didn't understand what they were talking about. So I had a little mixture of both. So I did well in some subjects, not in others. But to be honest, I think I was that focused on, I want to belong and I want friends, that I was more interested in my social life at school. So rather than getting on with it in class and doing my homework and things, I was just like, when's that bell going to go at end of day so I can go home and go out with my friends and just have a laugh and not really thinking about the future. So I left school with some GCSEs, could have done absolutely a ton better than what I did, but then I found myself in a place where I couldn't do what I wanted to do. So I wanted to be a midwife, but I couldn't go on and do the courses that I needed to do to get to uni. So I had to work harder after school to do that. Once I'd left school, going to college and doing things like that. But even today, I started going to church when I was 17, and at first I was like, what are people going to think? What are my friends going to think when they find out that I'm going to church? Because not very many people go to church. You probably know at school that not very many friends go to church. And I was like, what are they going to think? So the friends that I have got, are they still going to be my friend? Are they going to take the mick? Are they going to not be my friend anymore? But I was just like, this is what I knew, that God was speaking to me. I knew that God was real, and that what they were saying to me at church, that I could feel it inside. I could feel it in my heart, that God's real and God's speaking to me. What he's saying today is he's speaking to me. And he's calling, I've learned so much more since, but God calls us. He calls us by our name. He knows each and every one of us, whether you know him or not. He knows you because he formed you in your mother's womb. That's what the Bible tells us, that God formed you in your mother's womb, so he knows everything about you. So all those things that you don't want anybody else to know, God knows all that. But he also knows everything that we go through. So he knew exactly how I felt. He knew exactly what I'd been through. And he knew exactly how to meet me in that situation where I was. And it's helped me loads. But when we talk about the subject of mental health, I've carried a lot of the baggage that I had then, the things that happened to me. I carried that into today sometimes, because we never had nobody ever talked about it, and nobody ever, even bullying, nobody ever really did anything about it. Nobody ever addressed the issue. They never talked about it. So you never knew what you could do, who you could turn to. And you probably just felt like there's actually something wrong with me because we never talked about it, to know that actually this is something to do with my mental health, why I'm feeling like I am.
You did well then. You did well. She remembered all that information, guys, from such a long time ago. Well done. Well, it went downhill for me in year 6. Let's just put it that way. So I'd done well up to year 5, went into year 6, and this one, a new teacher, okay? So I didn't really know her. Well, she labelled me the class clown, okay? That didn't discourage me. That encouraged me. So that went on. It got to a point where it were a comedy show, basically. I spent most of the time just taking mick out of other kids and having a laugh while everyone else just listened and chuckled, and teacher stood there shouting at me. And yeah. So that was year 6. But then year 7, whoa, you're a little fish in a big pond, aren't you? I didn't like that. So I go in, little fat lad, there I were, yeah. Still am, I'm just slightly taller. And that were it. I were the chunky monkey at school. So they all started taking mick. And the only way to get them to stop was to sit on them. No, I'm kidding. I didn't sit on anybody. The only way to get them to stop was to be the funny person in class again. So that carried on and carried on. And I always, there were times I'd go in class and I just weren't in the mood for funny. And I'd actually do the lesson. And teacher would come up and be like, why can't you be like this all the time? It's been a great lesson, this. Look, you know what you're doing. You know how to do it. Why can't you just do it all the time? Because where's fun here, miss? Where's the fun here? There ain't any. So I carry on and carry on. And then it got to a point, year 10, you're the big kids, aren't you? So you start being naughty. So one time, we're in the school bus queue. This is not my fault, though, okay? We're stood in queue. There's loads of us. And all the ones behind me push me into teacher that's stopping us getting up bus. So I fall into her. She goes on floor. I got banned off bus for a week. Or so she thought. So every week, every day, I'd go round back at bus, go to fire exit door, and my mates had let me on. So I didn't miss bus. But then she found out the following week and gave me a week of after-school detentions. Oh, thanks, miss. All this because somebody pushed me. In end, I sweet-talked me head a year, and I only did one after-school detention. So, you know, it weren't that bad. But looking back now, you know, I left school with some GCSEs. I could have left with far better if I'd have just forget about the crowd, forget about being the funny guy. And it's easier. I've just come to terms, I'm a chunky monkey. And, you know, somebody says, oh, nah, there is potential, I will just sit on you, because I'm old enough now. I'll just sit on you. But I've just come to terms with it now. It is who I am, and I can change that, but there's times I ain't got the effort to change that as well. And it's easier to come to terms with, no, this is who I am. If you want to, call me that, call me that, call me that. It actually winds them up more if you just accept it and carry on than it does if you continue to argue with him about it. But yeah, I had to come to the realization that I could have done far better in school if I'd have stopped being a clown and irritated teachers and being naughty. And I think I'm doing good. I'm better now, aren't I? Yeah.
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 Yeah. Good.
Although
Don't sound too sure.
you are the world's biggest wind-up merchant, you know how to. If
That's
it
the one
finds your
thing I
buttons,
did get from school.
that's
Got a
it.
medal and everything. Yep. It was something like the world's biggest stirrer is what it said on my medal.
We've even got youth saying that's correct, so
What can I say? So what about you then, Mads?
so everything were all good in primary school up until like year 4, 5, and then I was bullied by this girl. So basically there were like 3 of us, and then this girl joined the school, and then she picked me to be her target, and then the rest of the years weren't really that great, but I didn't stay for year 6. I moved to a different primary school in year 6. But the teacher's way of dealing with it was, because she liked to take those 2 friends away from me quite a lot as the way to get to me. So, but the teacher's way of dealing with it was, well, why don't you hang around with her for 2 weeks, and then you hang around with her for 2 weeks, and then like sharing friends, not talking to us all and sorting it out. So that weren't really very good, and I only got to see my friends like once every 2 weeks, and then she'd come back anyway, even if it were my week to have my own friends. So when I moved primary school, I moved to a different school, and there were a girl who were just as annoying there, but she weren't as bad, so no offence to these people, but I don't know, I felt a bit more defensive then. I felt like I could stand up for myself a bit more. And then she then went and left that school a few years later, so then that was fine again. And then I moved to another high school in year 9. And my big thing is I really hate making new friends. It's just, I stress about it. I can't deal. It's just like, you know when Lydia were here, we're like, how am I going to talk to her? I don't know what to say. She's just, look at her, she's just better at drums than me and everything. I've lost my point now because you looked at me, so. And then, what did I last say, George? Oh yeah, and I had to make friends all over again for the third time, and I couldn't really be bothered with it, so I felt like I got really defensive at this point with everyone who said the slightest comment to me, and because my first high school was really small, so weren't really used to many people anyways, and then when I was, there were people like me-ish, do you know what I mean? And then they were like my brother and his friends, so they weren't really, like there were 10 people in my year alone, so. And then when I went to my other school, it was massive. There were like 300 people in my year and the one above alone. So it was like, well, I've got all these people to make friends with, and I don't know which ones I'm going to talk to first or I'm going to fit in with. And then when they started saying things, I took it the wrong way, and I was like, well, that's just rude. I'm going to say something back, and I don't know. I felt really angry. Mum says that I weren't that angry, but I felt like I was all the time. I felt really aggressive, and I felt like I carried that with me. And then when we used to have youth sleepovers a few years ago, I literally just used to sit here on Saturday night and be like, I don't want to go back, I'm really angry, and I was crying, and we're a big mess actually. But I left school, and then, well, I didn't even do my GCSEs because I was a COVID queen. So so I was all good after that, but I feel like sometimes now I'll be in situations and I get angrier than I want to be, and I feel like that was my mental health. That was my biggest mental health issue. It was that I couldn't control my anger when I really wanted to control it the most.
Well, for me at school, I was actually a great little goody two-shoes in primary school. Never got into trouble. I were good. Yeah, I'd just chill. I was friends with all the boys, so there were just never any drama. And then I got to high school, and I actually weren't that bad for a bit. But my thing, like, it weren't the actual people. Like, I could deal with people my age. I could just get on with anyone. I weren't friends with everyone, even though they might have thought they were my friend. I didn't really class them as friends. But it was teachers. It was teachers. I could not deal with teachers. They just used to annoy me and tell me to do my work. And I was like, well, what if I don't want to do it? I've got my own choice. And I was stubborn. I was just so stubborn, but...
Somebody get that man a mic.
But I weren't liked by a lot of teachers. I could get on with everyone else. I weren't liked by a lot of teachers because it weren't necessarily that I were like bad. I'd say what I thought. You know what I mean? Like, I weren't that person that would just sit there and just let them get on with doing whatever they're doing. Like, if I didn't agree with something they said, I'd say, well, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's right. And like, I don't always learn the way that everyone else learns. Like, I hate being in classroom. Even at college now, I can't stand being in classroom. I hate it. I can't concentrate when I'm in classroom. But teachers didn't get that that's not how I learnt, because not everyone learnt the same way. And I used to get told off because I'd ask them to teach me different ways to do stuff, and they didn't want to do that, even though that's the literal job. But that's a them problem, because if I don't pass, then it just looks bad on them. But even though I were in COVID, I actually did pass all my GCSEs, which I know is shocking. I know that shocks you. But we had to do some GCSEs in year 10. I didn't like this because I didn't like exams. I did do all right in them, but at this point in my life, I was suffering right bad with my anxiety. So as soon as I went into that exam hall, I couldn't deal with silence. And I'd be like, don't like this. So I was always that person that had to get took out and like put in a different room and stuff like that. And like, I felt a bit like a weirdo because I was like, how come everyone else can sit there and sit in exam like normally, but I can't? Like, I didn't get that. And it's like, I can't say I ever really got bullied, but like, my friends weren't always that nice to me. Like, they'd be like, why are you going out? Like, because there was this one teacher, and she was just best person ever, and she always used to like support me, and like, she understood me, and like, I could actually talk to her and she actually got what I were on about. But my friends were like, oh my days, like, why are you always with her? Like, so, like, it's weird. Like, how come you don't hang about with us? And I'm like, well, I do hang about with you, but if I need help, like, I go and talk to a person that's actually going to listen to me, because you're clearly don't care. Like, you obviously don't care how I feel. And like, sometimes in lessons and stuff, like, I'd have like panic attacks, and I could just felt a bit like a weirdo. But like, looking back on it, I just think, like, if you're suffering with something like that, you can't really help it. Like, it's not sometimes you don't know what's triggered it, and sometimes you do. And I just think, if you are suffering like that in school, like, find someone that you can go and talk to, because it's not weird. Like, people suffer with that every day, whether they're in school or not. And some people might be suffering with that, and you don't even know that they are. But yeah, and then now I'm in college, and I am good at college, but I'm still a wind-up. I don't think that's ever going to leave me. I know I annoy the life out of teachers, because, you know, like when someone tells you what to do, I'm that person that I'm just like, yeah, but now you've told me to do it, I don't want to do it. I want to do opposite. And I just wind them up. So they'll tell me to do something, and I'm just like, well, I'm not doing that. But that is something that I need to work on. But yeah, that's my experience.
Wow. So we're all rebels. And now we lead church. One quick question. How many of you guys are currently doing exams? Just Luke. Anybody doing mocks? Mock exams, yeah. One thing I just want to say before we carry on. Don't worry about it. I know it's easier said than done, but I feel like we put too much pressure on results these days, when in actual fact, you know, your parents love you, you've got friends, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever, you've got family, friends around you. We put too much pressure on a result in a test. And I just want to say, don't worry about it. Don't let it get you down. Because that's the one thing that happened to me, because I'd spent so long being an idiot and being a class clown. When it got to year 11 and they're like, oh, you're doing your GCSEs next week, I'm like, oh no, oh dear, Mum and Dad are going to kill me. They're going to kill me. Out into everything, like, I'm guessing here. I'm guessing. Unless it were maths, at which point, you know, that's fairly all right. But English, science, especially science, no idea. No idea whatsoever with science. But what I want to say is, don't let the pressure take over and stay on course. So, shall I share some stats for the people that haven't heard the stats? So, looking at 11 to 16-year-olds, which is the group we've got in tonight. So, 4.4% of 11 to 16-year-olds suffer with anxiety, that's mad. Like, I know it sounds small, 4.4, but like in the larger aspect, that's too many people, especially at such a young age, worrying about stuff that you just don't need to worry about. And then, so with depression, 1.4% of 11 to 16-year-olds have depression. That's mad as well. I know that's even smaller, but still, like, I can, now I look back at it, I can see some kids in my class and in my lessons where they were quiet, they kept themselves to themselves, and it's not as though they did that to get work done. They did that because they did not want to speak to anybody. Like, there were the kids that they would sit there and, no, I'm sitting back straight, talking to the teacher, doing my work. And then these would slumped over, you know, they'd have the pen in their hand, but they'd be looking out window, you could tell something was up. And me being me, you know, not knowing, would probably make fun out of them. What you doing? What you do? Talk to somebody. You can never laugh in class, you know, when in actual fact they're thinking, stop talking to me. Please stop talking to me. And then here's the big one. Self-harm and suicide. So 1 in 10 young people will self-harm. So take that into a school, which I don't. How many numbers are in schools these days, Leslie? Wow. Wow. And we have, yeah. And like, you guys probably pass some of them on a day-to-day basis at school and have no idea what they're going through. So some of you guys might be them people. We don't know. And then the weird thing is it's more common in children and young people with other mental problems, which, you know, when you say, oh, they've got anxiety, you know, they'll get through it. I think we need to stop just shrugging off things like this, because it escalates, it builds. And like when Lydia shared her story the other week, it escalated. It got to a point where she couldn't control how she felt. She had no feeling whatsoever, so the only way of feeling something was to hurt herself. And then to a point where, well, if I can't feel it, what is the point in being here? And the scary thing is there's kids in schools, maybe youth, that think this. And, you know, that's why we wanted to get together, just to talk about what we were like at school, just to share, you know, like when I were at school, and I've noticed, when I think about it now, yeah, they come to school and they got a mark on their arm, and they said that they just caught it on something, but then the next week there were another one on the other arm. It's like, well, what are you doing at home? What's happening at home? Like, how can you be catching yourself on the same sharp corner all the time? Like, what, you know, like you've got one at home. That one going into the kitchen. Oh, I avoid that corner like the plague now. I've caught my elbow with it a few times. It's not good. It's not good. So let's talk about the church aspect then. So, like, youth, or whether it were just church, or what did that look like for us? I'll let one of you go.
Just before you move on, though, I just want to say that one thing that it's taught me, and we're all a bit like this. When we're younger, we don't think about things as much, but, you know, we're all really different. And what seems normal to us is not normal to somebody else. And so we've probably all done it at some point, and we've kind of bullied somebody because we've pointed out what their difference is and why you're doing this, and kind of made a bit of fun of it because we don't understand it. But the one thing it's made me realize is that, you know, we don't know what somebody's going through. You could be sat next to somebody right now in here who might feel like they want to take their own life, and you might never know. And growing up, going back to the exams, you know, it's good to have an education, it's good to get that knowledge, and it's good to have those grades so that you can go on to do things. But do you know what? You can go back and you can do that. The best thing is just to be a good person. Yeah. The best thing that we can do as people on this planet is be good people, is to treat each other right. And the only way that we can ever stop this, and we can make the whole world a better place, is by each of us being a better person and being the best person that we can be. And, you know, God's not interested in how many GCSEs you've got. He's not interested in how much money you've got. All God wants is you to turn your heart to him. He just wants to know that you want to be in a relationship with him. He wants to be your friend, like we're friends with each other, but he's the best friend that you can ever have, because he'll never let you down. He'll never bully you. He'll never leave you. He'll never make you feel like you don't want to be there. He's always there. He's always looking out for you. And he will always look at your heart. He don't care what you look like. He don't care how big you are, how small you are. He just looks at your heart. And if you are genuinely trying to be the best person that you can be, and you treat people the best that you can and look out for each other, that's the best that we can do. And sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes, you know, we all do it, and we've all treated his friend a little bit badly, or we've said something that we think, I shouldn't have really said that. But, you know, as long as we recognize that and we go back and we put that right with that person, then it doesn't matter what someone else does. It's about each and every one of us being being the best person that we can be. And if we are the best person that we can be and we don't allow others to influence us, then we can influence others to be better as well.
Do you want to start? School and church or youth life, what did that look like?
Well, for me, like, so I've grown up in church anyway, and like at one point I sort of did have a couple of friends that were in church and were my age, but like when I didn't really suffer like with mental health or so I can't really give you an experience that where I turned to like a church friend my age for like when I was suffering with mental health. I didn't, like, at school, I didn't really ever invite anyone to youth because I didn't have a youth. Like, we didn't really do, like, groups like you have now. It would just sort of, like, we'd see each other on a Sunday. We didn't have, like, a proper youth. So I think that were hard for me because, like, I loved being in church, but I didn't always want to be with older ones. Like, I didn't want to just be chilling with my mum and dad all the time. Like, I wanted some friends that were my age. I wanted some friends that were my age that I could relate with. Do you know what I mean? Because, like, when my mum and dad were younger, they'll have gone through different things to what I have. So I think that were quite hard that I didn't really have, like, a church youth group when I was younger. And I think especially when I was, like, suffering with, like, my depression and stuff like that, I still went in the youth group. Like, I didn't come to this church at that point. I didn't have anyone my age who were in church that I could turn to. So I feel like that was quite difficult because I didn't know who to ask questions to, and I didn't really have anyone that related to me. But I think now that I think you guys as well, I think one thing you should take from this youth group is that I know you've all got each other's backs. Yeah. If any of you guys are going through out, you know for a fact that you can rely on each other. You know your true friends are in here, and there's no judgment here because we're all here and we're all listening to the same things and going through the same thing. I know you're all sort of different ages and stuff, but like we've got your back, and I know you've got each other's backs as well.
Yeah, get this one on your side. She'll sort anybody out. You know for a fact she's a right savage at youth. Lydia knows about it, don't you?
I do.
James did earlier. Didn't you, mate? He's talking away. We did a youth talent thing. James, it's your turn. He comes up, he's stood there. He starts talking, and these come up behind him and just with a load of cream in his face. Funny as out. So what about you then, Mads? Because there's a difference. You were on worship team from a young age, weren't you? Whereas you weren't really involved with much. So what did yours look like? Like, yeah. What did it look like with church and school? What do you mean? Do you want me to share what I'm going to say? And then I'll come back to you. So, for me, I've been in ministry since I was 11, I think. And I'll be honest, I did it up until I was about 13, 14, before I understood exactly what I was doing. I did it because I liked playing drums. You got experience with that? Yeah. And, you know, I went to youth every Friday, and then I went to church every Sunday, and after the Sunday service, they'd have a chill out, and I went to that as well. And I'll be honest, the only thing that got me through the week at school was knowing, youth on Friday. Just because I had other people I could relate to, other people that I could sit and have a laugh with, and it not have to be that I'm annoying a teacher for it to be funny, and not have to be that I'm annoying a leader to be funny. I could just go and have a laugh in general at youth. And I weren't annoying anybody, and I weren't getting on anybody's last nerve. It was just to have fun. And that really got me through thing. And then, so when I was 14 then, they took us on a trip to Audacious. And then that's when I decided, yeah, this is for me. I know where I'm going. I know who he is. I know what he's about.
Tell kids what Audacious is, though, because they don't know.
So Audacious, it was meant, wasn't it, Ledge? So we go away for a full week, Monday to Friday, and it was, would you call it rock music? A Christian rock church. They're not like that now, though, are they? But they used to do rock-style music. So we'd all go and be like, slapping air about and having a good laugh. And it were just having a good laugh until one guy got up and said something, and I was like, hang on a minute, that's me. He said, I can't tell you what he said. He said something, and all of a sudden I thought, that's me. He's talking straight to me. Everyone else might as well leave the room. He might as well pick his notes up and just slap me around the face, because I'm the only person that he's referring to here. So I made the decision then, and unfortunately they stopped it. But Rock Nations is on now, which is what we want to take you guys to this summer. That's going to be good. However, bit gutted, they have inflatable stuff going off. They have a paint party. I never got to that, Mads. I never got to that.
You can do it now.
I can't, though.
You can.
I can't.
You can.
I'm a big child.
Exactly.
I'm going to run around going, I've got a jar of paint. And then at that point, I had to make a decision. Am I going to tell everybody at school what I've done with my weekend, or am I going to keep it to myself? And I kept it to myself up until year 10. And at year 10, I thought, I'll invite somebody. I'll say, you want a Friday night, you fancy coming to a club that I go to? A club. That's the only way I could get them to come. They'd come along, they'd see me drumming. Everybody knew next day, on Monday, that I went to church, and he drums at church. But then it went from being, I panicked too much about it, and it went from being something I was embarrassed about to everybody's like, he plays drums. Can't believe he plays drums. And it sort of took a pressure off. I don't know what your experience was like, but it took a pressure off me, knowing that actually they accept me just because I play an instrument. They accept me because I play an instrument. And I didn't think about that. I spent too much time panicking about the fact that, it's God Squad or whatever they call it these days. When in actual fact, I play an instrument. People relate with that. People like music. And that helped me quite a bit. But yeah, so that sort of, what did it look like for you?
Well, I didn't really understand the whole church thing for a long time. Like, I came to church every Sunday because if I said, I don't want to go to church, Mum and Dad would be like, well, you're coming anyways. So I didn't really have an option in it. But every year we went to an event called One Event, and that's like a really big family event for churches across the UK. Or I suppose people travelled in, didn't they? But and it was like the highlight of my year. Like, I loved it, even though I just didn't understand anything. But then I suppose every kid who goes to one event, who goes to GOO, says, oh, I gave my life at GOO, mate. I just did. And in a way I did, because I began learning there. I began listening there because there were more people my own age there. And even though we're only young, it just felt better to be around those people who were my age. But then I stopped going to GOO because I really only had one friend from church who was my own age, and it was like an on and off friendship. Sometimes we go along and sometimes we didn't. So I ended up going to Big Top, and then that was just a bit too much for me at the time. Like, I just didn't understand. So that was one of those in middle of sermon, you're like, yeah, I'm awake. I am awake, guys. But anyone want to sweet because it keeps me awake. So it does. And then we went to Rock Nations, and it was just me and my cousin at the time. And I had this big God moment, and I was like, well, that's just changed everything for me. I have no idea what got said at the time, but I remember going down to the front and some stranger praying for me, and I was just in tears, and I was like, well, this has changed everything. And then went back to his old church at the time, and I got interested in the music, and I started going to drum lessons and all that sort of stuff. And I could feel it changing my anger. Like, I could feel a weight being lifted in a way, but it just wasn't. I didn't give my all back to him when he was giving it to me. So, because I didn't understand the reading your Bible all the time, the praying, the talking back to him. I just understood worship, and that was the weight what was originally lifted. And then, well, it's just gone from there, really. The more I've learnt, the more I've felt better in my life, because I'd say in my Christian life, but then I was like you. At first, I didn't tell no one I went to church, and then when I said I drummed, they were like, "Oh, where'd you drum?" And it were like, "Oh, well, I drum in church." And then they were like, "Oh, well, she drums." It was a bit like yours, like they accepted me because I could play an instrument. And then I just grew in my faith and stuff from there. And then my anger just, well, there's an app, a Bible app called YouVersion. You should get it, because you can take different plans and color plans. And I took it sounds really cringe now, but I took an anger one, yeah, and it was like a 7-day thing. But I went over it a few times, and I really understood how God speaks about anger and how you can be calm and find his peace in those moments. So, and that was in year 11, actually. So it took me that long to really grasp a hold of God, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tip for you. If you feel like you're angry, become a drummer.
Amen.
Yes, definitely. There's a reason we're drummers. We can contain our anger on the kit. But the main reason we wanted to do it a bit more like this was just to show you that we're all the same. There's nothing different between, what happens with you guys at school compared to what happens with us, or what happened with us. And we just wanted to sort of put to rest that, it's not easy. Coming to church is not easy. I don't know where it ever came from that the minute you start coming to church, your life gets a ton easier, because in actual fact, sometimes it gets harder. And we just wanted to show you guys and anybody watching as well that we've been through it, and I'm sure there's plenty of you guys in the building tonight that have been through some stuff that other people have been through. And it's not, coming to church don't make it easier. Knowing God don't make it easier. What does make it easier is having this friends and this family around you to help you through any bad situations or any bad times. So as we bring it to a close, Rachel's just going to share a little bit before we wrap up, and then we'll head through.
Yeah, so I guess I just want to encourage you that if you're going through anything, whether you're the person who feels like actually people are bullying me, or they're a bit mean to me, or they make me feel anxious, they make me feel not very nice, or whether you're the person who is, you might be absolutely fine, everything might be, you might have a great friendship groups at school, you might be, or you might be the one that actually is struggling to deal with how you feel, and so you might be treating people a little bit in a way that you shouldn't be treating them because you might not understand. We've had some young boys out here tonight throwing stones when they found out that we were doing church, and that's because they don't understand. They don't understand who God is and why we do what we do. And I just want to tell you tonight that God is real, and God wants to know you. He wants to have a relationship with you like we have with each other, and He can be very real in your life. Like with Madison, like Jordan said, it doesn't get easier. Things don't change in life, but God walks through it with you. So you can walk through a situation where normally you would get really angry, but God can give you a peace. He can help you how to deal with that. And together we can help each other with that. We can help each other to deal with that. We're going to do a song. This first song is called Don't You Give Up on Me. But as we sing this song, it's been written as if God is singing these lyrics over you. So I just want you all to sit through this first song and just listen to what God is saying and how God feels about you and how He understands. It says, I see you trying, though you can't see me. And I know your thoughts before you even think. I heard every last prayer you prayed. Though I answered all the time, you just didn't hear my reply. And I know it's not easy. God knows it's not easy. God knows it's not easy telling your friends that you've been to youth that's at church. But he can be with you. He knows exactly your life. He knows whether it's absolutely amazing or he knows whether you feel like you're in the gutter. God knows it all. And God can be with you in everything. And if tonight you feel like, actually, I feel like there's just something inside. I feel like my heart's just beating more, or I feel like some of the stuff that you've said, it's related to me. You know, God uses other people so that he can tell you about him. He uses us, and he can use you to tell your friends about him. So as we sing this song, if that's you and you think, actually, I want to know Jesus more, I want to know God more, I want to be in that relationship, and I want him to help me at school, I want him to help me in my friendships, I want him to help me deal with what I'm going through because I don't understand it myself, then as we sing this song, if you want to come to the front, we can pray for you like Madison said. You can stand and you can just, we call it worship. So we worship him. And that's because if there's something in your life that you really love, then you'll speak highly of it. And you'll do things because you're motivated, because you really like that and you understand it. And that's like us with God. We know that God sent his son to die for us so that we can be in a relationship with him, and that when we die, we don't have to go to that place called hell. We can spend an eternity in heaven with him. And so if you feel like tonight you want to know Jesus, then I'd encourage you to stand, to come to the front. You'll not be on any cameras, so nobody will see you. It's just us that's in here. And we can pray with you, and I promise you, your life will never be the same again. It'll be so much better. Even though you might walk through bad things, God will still be with you.
I see you trying, but you can't see me. I know your thoughts before you even think. I heard every last prayer you prayed, though answered all the time. You just didn't hear my reply. Oh, it's not easy. Don't you give up on me. Don't you give up on me. 'Cause when the darker the night gets, the brighter the light is. Don't you give up on me. Don't you give up on me. You ain't seen what I promised. Child, we're just getting started. And there is so much more. The way when there's no way out. I'll be your strength when your strength runs out. And when you walk into the fire, I'll be right there in the flames. Wouldn't have it any other way. 'Cause loving you's easy. Don't you give up on me. Don't you give up on me. 'Cause the darker the night gets, the light is the hardest. Don't you give up on me. Don't you give up on me. You ain't seen what I promised. Child, we're just getting started. Oh, Open your heart, open your hands, open your eyelids. I've got more dreams, I've got more plans, I've got more blessings. Don't lose your hope, don't lose your faith. That's where your fight is. I've got more dreams, I've got more plans, I've got more blessings. Open your heart, open your hands, open your eyelids. I've got more dreams, I've got more plans, I've got more blessings. Don't lose your hope, don't lose your faith. That's where your fight is. I've got more dreams, I've got more plans, I've got more blessings. Oh, there is so much more. Oh, there is so much more. Oh, there is so much more. So much more. Don't you give up on me. Don't you give up on me. 'Cause when the night's at its darkest, it's when the light hits the hardest. Don't you give up on me. Don't you give up on me. You see what I promised. Child, we're just getting started. Open your heart, open your hands, open your eyelids. I've got more dreams, I've got more plans, I've got more blessings. Don't lose your hope, don't lose your faith. That's where your fight is. I've got more dreams, I've got more plans, I've got more blessings. Don't you give up on me. Don't you give up on me. 'Cause when the night's at its darkest, it means the light hits the hardest. Don't you give up on me. Don't you give up on me. You ain't seen what I promised. Child, we're just getting started. Do you see what I see? Do you see what I see? Oh, I see lightning, I hear thunder. Something stirring 6 feet under. Dead things coming back to life again. I believe there's about to be another resurrection. Oh, I see signs and I see wonders. Oh, I see bursts of living color. Dead things coming back to life again. I believe there's about to be another resurrection. Oh, so come alive, wake up, sleeper. He is risen. We are risen with him. Oh, hallelujah, it is finished. See the grave, nobody in it. Dead things coming back to life again. I believe there's about to be another resurrection. Resurrection, oh, so come alive, wake up, sleeper. He is risen. you see what I see, that the grave is empty, then you know what I know. Anything is possible if you see what I see, that the grave is empty, then you know what I know. Anything is possible if you see what I see. Oh, do you see what I see? Oh, do you see what I see? I see signs and I see wonders. Something stirring 6 feet under. Something stirring 6 feet under. So come alive, wake up, sleeper. He is risen. We are risen. Oh, paradise, hung wide open. He is risen. We are risen with him. Amen. I've enjoyed that. Have you guys had a good weekend? Yeah? Good. We might do another then. Have a great week, guys. You know where we are if you need us. And I'm sure there'll be refreshments served through in the other room. And we can have a chat. And have a catch up with some people that haven't been here for a while as well. See you all a little bit.